Hello there. If you can see my slides all right, Carolina?
Can you swap the display?
Sure. There we
No.
go. Better.
Perfect. Yeah.
Hello, everyone. So Sergio has given you a great introduction of the different phases of the clinical trials. And what I thought to do is to really focus in on the biggest and most complex of the studies there to give you some idea on the clinical trial life cycle, the arc of clinical trials. And what I put up here just as the opening slide is from the recent ligelizumab data, the two Pearl studies. So Sergio mentioned that often with the phase 3, we will conduct two big multi-center phase 3. And this comes from the Lancet publication indicating the one of the Pearl 1 study layout and grant and allocation of patients. But what I wanted to draw people's attention to from a feasibility and a scope perspective is that these two phase 3 trials were conducted at 347 sites across 46 countries. So these multi-country international studies at the phase 3 level really require a substantial effort with several organizations involved. They all start really at the feasibility stage. So how feasibility works is we've got this little funnel here where essentially a company working largely through clinical research organizations will reach out to key opinion leaders. So for instance, in the urticaria space, this will be the UCARE centers. They will want to have representation from multiple countries, and then this will filter down to specific sites. What's required for a study to be conducted at a particular site in order to ensure safety and ethical standards are maintained? You need to have a skilled team. So you want the principal investigator to be a key opinion leader and really understand the subject matter and the investigational medicine product under study. The site needs to have the patients available and the facilities and equipment to run. And this is no mean feat. So many countries and sites still lack good clinical trials infrastructure to be able to conduct studies at the local level. I'll show you in further detail as well about all of the compliances that need to be followed, and these differ from country to country. So this is quite a site or country-specific detail. They need to have a good administrative support and backup to be able to communicate with the clinical research organizations and the sponsor, to be able to deal with logistics of multiple vendors, and also to be able to deal with budgeting. And most of the time, what this means is that sites that are selected usually have some kind of proven track record in effectively conducting clinical research. So now you have your study, you've got your investigational product. This is going to be a phase 3 study in chronic urticaria. And the key thing then is to start off by planning the study. So you set the goals for the study, how many participants will be needed to have an adequately powered study. One estimates, and each site does this, how many patients you see, how likelihood based on the inclusion-exclusion criteria will you be able to put a study or a patient onto a particular study. You then use this information to create something of a timeline. And you can see this graph that I've put here just indicates the patient number on the y-axis, time across on the x-axis, and essentially a tracking or your proposed cumulative enrollment to hit the end of the study. This allows you to plan how long the study is going to take. It allows you also, when you're plotting as the study goes against this target, you can see whether recruitment is going slowly, and you can spot and plan and fix different issues that come up. Then at each site, what needs to happen is you do a bunch of kind of pre-study startup activities. This includes checking all your equipment, checking the laboratory kits, and most importantly, dealing with all the regulatory approvals. So each site needs to have an ethics approval as well for investigational medicines products. Most countries have got regulatory bodies that approve and that need to approve clinical trials with new products. And then also the other group is, depending on the product and the particular site, you might need local approvals from particular hospitals or where these things might happen. So all of that needs to happen. And during that process, while that's ongoing and you're dealing with questions to make sure that everything is in place, you're preparing your pre-study documents. And you're looking at this and making sure the source document and what information you're going to collect is there. Once all of those things are in place, at each site, you'll normally have what's called the site initiation visit. And what this does is this ensures that everybody understands the protocol, everybody's trained and understands what's going to happen in the study, everything you need to conduct the study is in place, and that basically then the study is ready to go. And then normally what happens is the central organization and the sponsor will give a green light to a site, and this will allow them to start recruiting. Then the actual study continues. This might last for a year long. This might last for 2 years, depending on those timelines that you've mapped out, and also depending on how long you're going to study. So many of the UCARE studies last for 1 year in terms of putting patients, or often even 12 or 24 weeks. So it depends on what you're looking at. So then what will happen is at each site, patients will be screened, they will then be selected, and often that's an important thing to remember as patients drop off, they don't meet the particular criteria. So it's not necessarily like just because you're interested in the study will you necessarily be able to participate. And you might even have the right condition, but there might be peculiarities of a study that mean that you don't get selected. Once you are selected, and then you get what's called randomized to a particular allocation. Normally, most of the phase 3 studies are what we call double-blind, placebo-controlled studies. What that means is that you will either get allocated to the medicine or you will get allocated to a placebo, and nobody knows. You don't know, and the investigators don't know what allocation you've got. Often this will be unblinded once the study is over, and many times patients on placebo will then get access to the therapy as well. So we want people that participate in trials to share what we call the risks and the benefits of trials. So we want to try to make it as beneficial and as pleasant an experience for patients, obviously with the acknowledgement of the fact that, you know, this is a new product and we don't actually know how this is going to turn out. Importantly, during this recruitment process, trials are being monitored at different levels. So this helps to ensure that the protocol is well carried out, that patients don't deviate from the protocols, that the ethical standards and the safety are constantly adhered to. And there's a whole group of safety requirements. If there's a new reaction or something that triggers a whole lot of reporting that really keeps studies safe, and including at times you might stop a study if there's any kind of safety signal detection. So finally, once all the enrollment has occurred across the different sites, you have the data analysis phase. And what you're really going for, the goal, one of the first goals of a good study is what they call the database lock. And what this means is this indicates a time when data collection is finished, and it's usually a specific kind of line in the sand. And at that point afterwards, the data will be given to the statisticians who are involved in data analysis, and then data analysis will occur. It tends to occur after the last visit of the last study participant, although there will sometimes be interim data locks that go. After you've done this final database lock, it's extracted, and then that data can be analyzed and also submitted to regulatory bodies. After you've done all the data analysis, kind of the final point for a given study will be what's called the clinical study report. The clinical study report is a comprehensive regulatory document that describes all of the data and the outcomes of the trial. There's particular structure and content at an international standards level that ensures that trials are reported in a transparent manner. In addition to that, what normally happens is that the investigators involved with the trial will take that data as well and publish it. And they will publish it in potentially Congress presentations or in a final scientific publication. And then, but that clinical study report will also go to the regulatory bodies, and the companies and sponsors can use that for highlighting and looking for regulatory approval for their particular investigational product. And that really summarizes and concludes the kind of arc and life cycle of the clinical trials. I'll hand back over.
Thank you, Jonny. Super presentation, really interesting. Now we go to Jason Fuck, who will talk to us from the patient perspective, risks and benefits of enrolling in a clinical trial. Jason, the screens are yours.
Right.